And thank you so much for having me here. I hope you all are having a good day at the Thai Global Summit. There's so much buzz around. And for those of you who don't know, CXXO is hosting the No Ceiling Summit, and has a theme of wearing a sari. So here we are. We don't, yeah, so anyway. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I want to talk about the 5 rounds of funding that we've done. And in each of those 5 rounds of funding, getting up to a total of 250 crores that we've raised so far, what I felt was that which helped us get that investment, what I think the investor was looking for in that round. And that is my way of saying how do you attract the right investor and how do you convert that pitch into capital. Because raising 250 crores in a sector that actually has not raised much in India at all has not been easy, but being the category leader, the onus is on us to do it. And 250 crores is a sizable sum of money when you don't have warehouses, like we don't need them, when it's an asset-light business. So it's pretty much all we need, to be able to build a good billion-dollar business. Not to say we won't raise more money, but yeah, so far so good. So my name is Swati Bhargava. I grew up in a small town called Ambala. Those of you who are familiar with North India, it's near Chandigarh. It's known for its railway junction and the fact that Pariniti Chopra is from Ambala and she was my junior in school. So I grew up there and I never really thought that I will be actually studying abroad or anything. But I applied for the Singapore Airlines scholarship after my class 10 and I got through that. So I did my 11th, 12th there and then a scholarship to the London School of Economics where I studied mathematics and economics. And then I worked at Goldman Sachs in London for 5 years doing investment banking. And every day was 8 a.m. till midnight, and I used to be like, where does it end? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? And I realized that light was basically doing your own thing. Because agar itna kaam karna hai, to apne liye kyun na kar le? Was what my husband Rohan and I told ourselves. So we actually started our business in the UK back in 2012. There you go. This is what we're talking about today. So, yeah. So we started our business in 2012, which was Pouring Pounds. That's the company still. We have it as a UK domiciled company. And then, so we started there as a B2B company. And we got into the cashback space because we thought that it's fantastic. Like if you can get money back on your shopping, why won't you do it? अगर किसी को पता हो तो वो क्यों ही नहीं करेगा? Like there was no reason not to use a cashback site because all of us work so hard to earn our money. But and if we can save 10, 20, 30, 50% in some cases, why won't we do it? So it was one of those questions that it just felt that the consumer proposition was so strong that we wanted to get into the space. So we started off actually as a B2B company, setting up cashback sites for large organizations like the Daily Mail, people who have an audience so that they could offer it as a reward. And in doing so, we also realized that okay, cashback actually is the main product, right? So we don't need to do B2B. हम अपनी normal B2C site भी खोल सकते हैं. So we started pouringpounds.com, which we expanded to India, and we run CashKaro.com, which is India's largest cashback app today. And for a user, if you're shopping online on Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, any site, if you go there via CashKaro and buy, you get extra cashback on your purchase. And this can be 8, 10%, 20%. In flash deals, you get 80, 90% cashback also. Every day we have flash deals running. And all this cashback you collect in your CashKaro account, you transfer it to your bank as real cash. So it's just a very powerful way to save money on your online shopping because you just have to go via CashKaro and keep placing your orders. So that's what we thought, this is the product market fit for a business like this in India should be phenomenal because everyone likes to save money and we are giving you free money back. We're not asking for anything. We're just saying go via CashKaro and you will get real cash. It was so simple that we had to explain it again and again and people wouldn't believe it. So the first time that we thought we want to raise money is when we actually expanded from UK to India and we wanted to set up that beta site of CashKaro because we thought we've used our savings so far in the UK business. So we went to London Business School and we pitched there. So I'm going to take you through the 5 rounds that we did, right? So this was the first round, first pitch ever of my life. At London Business School, in that, bade steps pe log baithe hue and aage jaake we are pitching and we're talking about, pouring pounds at that time and the fact that we will go into India. Now, after that, when it finished, one gentleman walked up to us and he said, I'm the CFO of Monetize, which is into fintech, and it's a very large UK company. And, how about I make you meet my CEO, because it's going to be interesting to see what, you guys can do together. So we did that meeting, and it so turned out that we had an acquisition offer from Monetize for £1 million. And we said, wow, अगर एक साल business run करने के बाद we can get £1 million acquisition offer, then how about we do this longer and maybe we will be able to build it into something phenomenal. So we did not sell, but that gentleman said, okay, I've enjoyed interacting with you guys and I believe in you guys as founders, so I will write you a £50,000 check. So that was the first seed round that we raised from there. Now, what made him invest? I think it was because he saw potential in the business, and there was some synergy with his company he could see. He was impressed by the founding team and the team in general executing. He liked the space, so it ticked the boxes for him. So we took that money and, we did the worst thing ever, which is not to do a valuation, because we thought the kind gentleman, acquisition didn't go through, he's giving us money. He said, I will give you £50,000 and I will take 6% of your business. I said, 6%? 6 to ज़्यादा नहीं होता, ठीक है? Today you ask me for 6, I'll be like, let's talk. I mean, not even today. Many years ago I would have said that, but not that time. So happens, right? You look back and you're like, what was I thinking? But anyway, because that time is the first check, so you end up doing it. After that, we said, so this gentleman's name is Peter Radcliffe. He's still on our board, and he's 65. So we have that father figure in him. So then after that, we launched in India, and CashKaro started growing. And there was a lot of organic growth coming, and business was picking up. And we said, wow, maybe we're actually sitting in the wrong country and the wrong city, because the growth is happening in India. E-commerce is an exciting space to be. And our business, which is linked to driving sales to e-commerce and getting commission from them, will do well as e-commerce grows in India. So we should move to India. So we decided to pack our bags, and people were like, what are you doing, leaving a job at Goldman and packing up your bags? लोगों को visa नहीं मिलता UK के जाने का, you have a permit छोड़ के तुम लोग आ रहे हो वापस. But we said no, because we want to we want to be a part of the Indian growth story. And I don't regret that decision till date, because this has been the best thing ever. The hustle in India is amazing. The energy is amazing. There's so much happening. So 10 years ago when we moved, we didn't move 10 years back, but when we started CashKaro, Vijay Shekhar was starting, was doing stuff with Paytm, Jabong, Kunal at Snapdeal. So now all of these people today are like, our peers, because we all kind of started together. And the startup gang is one of my best friends, because we all grew up together in the Indian e-commerce space, right? So having said that, we said, okay, CashKaro is growing, let's raise money for CashKaro. And I come from a banking background, investment banking, right? Never really pitched, never really, thought of, today people go to so many events, there is so much more awareness about it. But 10 years ago, it wasn't like that. It was more like, everyone trying to build and just saying, and the investors used to tell you only one thing: much better to have a small part of a big company than a big part of a small company. So must raise money and, it must make your business big, which I don't deny, but, like I said, don't be so generous on valuation. So at that time, I wrote an email to all my friends and family from London, from Goldman Sachs, and we said, we've launched CashKaro, it's growing well. We want to raise $250,000 in the next 48 hours. Who's in? And I think that's how angel investing works, that when you get 2 people in, वो 4 अपने आप आते हैं उसके बाद, because people are so influenced by each other. So amongst those emails, like I started getting a couple of responses from people saying, we are in £25,000, £50,000. And Rohan was in India that time, so I was doing all these meetings alone. So I would literally go into a meeting, but before going, I would think about how do I want this meeting to go. And I think that is just so important, that when you're going for an investor meeting, visualize it. How do you want it to go? Think about the questions they will ask. Visualize yourself answering them, acing them. And I think that makes all the difference. So that's what we, and most of these meetings were in bars, in restaurants, in like any small place that, people would meet you. So I would go for one meeting, come out, and I would call Rowan, £100,000 done. I would go, come back, £100,000 done. I think it was like the highest high, of my life at that time, because you had all these people saying yes. And in doing that, I didn't realize that in 48 hours we closed $750,000 instead of $250,000, which was our original target. And we thought that was okay to actually oversubscribe, because then we could move to India, build our business, have that competitive edge, because nobody else had raised money. And I think that was a good move. Again, gave up too much equity because we decided to do a bigger round, but it definitely gave us a competitive edge. And I think I don't regret that, therefore. So what made those angels invest was the fact that they were all sitting in UK wanting a piece of India. India is a very attractive market for people, and everybody wants a piece of it. So if you're operating in a geography or a sector that's hot, then people really want that. Our sector wasn't like the flavor of the month like quick commerce is today, but it was Indian e-commerce that was attractive for people. So we cut that check. Then we moved to India, and we said, okay, we are building our business, but now this is 2016 and we want to grow further. So why not look at venture capital? Because we could see all these news of people investing in money, right? And I didn't know that like we were new in India, so we didn't know that a Norwest Partners is a growth capital versus Kalari, who will do a Series A. So at that time we went and met a lot of VCs, back to back. Mumbai ka ek trip set up kar diya, 3 days mein met 8 of them. And then came back and said, this was not such a good call, because you never should actually set up investor meetings back to back. This is my learning today. Always give some space, because then you have time to absorb their feedback, work on it, change things before you do your next meeting. Because you don't get them all lining up again to say, oh, pichli bari you weren't prepared, chalo fir se aa jao. No, they won't meet you. They'll be done. So, make use of those bullets much better by actually spacing them out. And but anyways, gladly हमने जो ऐसे line up किया था, they weren't our TG actually, because they weren't Series A investors. But when we met Kalari, there was an instant fit, because I always wanted an Indian fund to lead our first round, so that after that, if we do global funds, they always have the comfort that there is a local investor that's involved. And I think that was a good call, because even till today, if I talk to growth investors outside India, they're like, oh, but is there someone local there? I'm like, yeah, Kalari is there, Vani is there, Rajesh is there. They are keeping a tab on us, corporate governance in place. Don't worry. So that really helps. So we actually raised $3.8 million from Kalari Capital. And that's how we are in the portfolio today. And that was amazing, because I think Kalari had the right investments in e-commerce. They made those introductions. It gave us a clear edge. And Vani is a huge champion, right, of entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs as well. In our case, I mean, me and Rohan do it together. So I don't think, we only pitched to Vani in the last round. It was Rajesh who was with us always, and he's on our board. So it wasn't a CXXO female or entrepreneurship play in our case, which I think today there's a lot of opportunity, and that's great. It's great that more opportunities are there. So after that, I went to Vani and I said, I need a favor. I need a meeting with Mr. Ratan Tata. And she said, but he won't invest in this space. I said, paisa to hum bhi de rahe hain. Charity nahi hai, but paise to de rahe hain. Maybe he does, who knows? And I think that is like one of the themes in my life, that unless you don't ask the question, you don't know the answer. You shouldn't assume that the answer is no without actually asking. If I had assumed that Singapore scholarship nahi milegi, I would have never applied. If I had assumed that LSE would not give a scholarship, even if they give admission, I wouldn't have gone there. I got 80% scholarship at LSE only because I made a case saying I really want to come, but I can't afford it. And then with Mr. Tata, Vani said, okay, fine, you go try. I said, no, we have to talk to him. So we went to Mumbai, got a meeting with him, went to the Taj at the Chambers. So when you enter the Taj, at the lift, there's a C. So you press that C and it takes you to Chambers. It opens up into this room, which is a fully wooden paneled, beautiful room. And you know that you've come to some place special. So I remember sitting over there, and the butler came to me and he said, ma'am, what would you like to have before your meeting with Mr. Tata? I said, I don't know, do you have a menu? Then he looked at me and he said, ma'am, this is Mr. Tata's chambers. You can have anything you want. So I said, okay, fine. So I don't know what to ask for. I said, I'll have pancakes with strawberries. I still remember I ordered pancakes with strawberries. Not that I ate it, because I was not even hungry. I was so excited to meet him. So after that, our turn came and we went inside the room. And Mr. Tata was sitting on this long table having his dessert. Lunch meeting, uske pehle kisi ka tha unka. So they told us that Mr. Tata is sitting here. You can actually present there on the side. There is this, big projector wall. So I went and stood there, like a good girl, ki chalo abhi shuru karenge, fir wo dekhenge mujhe, fir hum karenge. Then I was like, this is not going to work. I have a 20-minute slot and I'm going to be standing here. He's sitting there. There's no eye contact. There's no relationship that we will develop. We will go away with at best a photo, nothing else. So I went to him and I said, sir, do you mind that if we don't use the deck and I just sit across from you and we have a conversation? And same 20 minutes, but just want to chat with you. He said, yeah, sure, do that. And that was my other learning. If I had not asked that question, I wouldn't be able to tell you today that the late and very amazing Mr. Tata was actually on our cap table, right? So I think that was a game-changing moment for us there. So we sat across from him. We had a conversation. Mr. Tata was fully engaged, and like you would think that. I mean, of course, he is so intelligent. He's built so many businesses. But I'm talking to him about digital marketing, performance marketing, user trends. He was on top of it. He knew all of that, and whatever he didn't know, he was asking questions. He was fully engaged in that conversation. So that was amazing. So after that, I also told him that, my 84-year-old grandfather will be very happy that I'm here with you today because his first job was at Tata Steel. And he said, thank you so much. Please thank him for his service. And then I said, so, sir, I must take a photo with you to send to him. He said, yeah, of course. So Vani till date laughs and tells me that you're a good entrepreneur because you got Mr. Tata to say yes to a photo so easily. And most of the other people who did those meetings didn't get any photos because they never asked because they thought कि allowed नहीं है. And मुझे बोला था allowed नहीं है, but I said मैं अपने नहीं, मैं तो grandfather के लिए मांग रही हूँ. तो he said हाँ चलेगा, so it was fine. So we did the meeting, we got the photo. 2 weeks nothing happened. So I used to tell Rohan, चलो और कुछ नहीं, photo तो हो गई, maybe this wasn't his space. So I get a message at 10 p.m. saying, Swati, this is Venkat, can you call me? And that time Venkat used to be an intern at CashKaro. And I thought, why is this intern messaging at 10 p.m? Interns को भी कुछ हो गया है, जो मन करता करते हैं. Like everything I'm thinking, Then I was like, well, if the intern is messaging, maybe he needs something because normally he wouldn't message at 10. So I replied saying, sure, call me. And then got the call, Swati, this is Venkat from Mr. Tata's office. I was like, no way. I've been waiting for this call. And I delayed it because I thought ye Venkat intern hai. So he said, we were really impressed with your pitch and we'd love to invest. So send us the docs. Just one line. I was like, wait, don't hang up. You're in for sure. He said, yeah. I said, okay, so no change in docs you want? He said, nothing, you just did it with Vani, give me the same docs. I said, okay, so you're sure, na? Because after this, I'm going to tell everyone, I'm going to be really excited. Don't tell me tomorrow you had other thoughts and something was left. He said, no, all done. I said, great. Raat ko hi maine docs bhej diya. I was like, just sign and send back, right? And then we did that. So we got Mr. Tata on board. That was our third round. And why did he invest? I think he invested because, when I asked him at the end of the pitch, so what do you think of our business? He said, in a country that loves to save money, you're giving free money. What's there not to love? And I thought that was so powerful and that was so true because that is how we've built our business, that this is a product that there is no reason not to love or not to use. And he saw through it, right? So we were aligned. So that investor alignment is important. And of course, goes without saying that at every step, the investor is always looking at the founder because you're the face of the business. And, whatever we say is at best as what will happen in that business because we anyways have starry-eyed and positive outlook, right? So our job is to present also that best picture, not like a parallel universe picture, so kabhi hoga nahi, but at least a good, realistic, but positive picture. So we did that and then we started building. This was 2016. And we didn't raise money for the next 2-3 years because we thought we don't need it. And our view was that fundraising is a means to an end. It's not an end. We're not here as founders to raise money and become brands and say that this is what we do. What we do is CashKaro. Funding is a means of doing that. But then after that, we realized, okay, now we need more capital because we wanted to do more marketing. We wanted to launch CashKaro as well. So we needed more money. So I thought, okay, now we've done Indian funds. Let's look outside. Let's look outside where? Personally, that time, Chinese investments were very hot. Chinese investors were hot. A lot of people were putting in money. So I said, let's look at China because China mein, there's Fanly.com. So, if you look at your global counterparts, where are they and are they succeeding? That's a great place to start and look for investors because the investors there have seen that story play out. So their confidence in the business is much higher and therefore they're, more likely to invest as well. So we actually got this Chinese advisory firm to work with us because we have no way otherwise to know how to reach the Chinese investors. मतलब उनकी LinkedIn profile पे भी कुछ खास नहीं होता apart from the name written in English and Chinese. So through this, and then we said, okay, let's just go to China. We've never been to China. We just keep talking about it. So I came across this summit called I think it's called GMAC, which is like which is organized in Shang. Someplace. Okay, so in China somewhere, Guangzhou, yeah. So in Guangzhou, so we said, okay, we'll fly there and we will go pitch there. So we paid $5,000 to an agent who said that we've got you a slot there. And we said, fine, because in the audience there will be Chinese investors. Let's go and pitch and understand what's the appetite for a business like this. And our other boutique guy had also arranged some interviews, some meetings for us with other investors. So when we went there, one gentleman in the audience turned out to be from Korea Investment Partners, and he was himself a big user of Fanly.com. And he was super convinced that Fanly is the thing. The cashback site is the thing. And Indian market mein to cashback chalega. So, and then he organized our meeting with his bosses in Shanghai at Korea Investment Partners. So we flew from Beijing to Shanghai, did that meeting with them, and we were like, what's happening? Really? Like, we really found a guy in that audience jahan pe other logo English bhi samajh nahi aati, by the way. So I was literally talking slowly. I used to have this graph of GMV, and I would be looking at people. I would pause on that slide for a long time saying, look at it, look at it. I would only talk about the shape. कि अगर और कुछ नहीं पता लग रहा, GMV लिखा है, ऊपर जा रहा है, इतना देख लो, So, it was hard. So, but that KIP meeting was good. It was good. We came back. They started doing due diligence. Their due diligence ran for like a good 4 months because they used to ask for so much data. And it's really important that when you are in this process, if you are co-founders, one of you has to be involved in this. Otherwise, it will go too slow if you leave it to your teams. And the teams also don't know how to present data. Data is data. We won't change it. But there's a way of presenting it. There's a way of telling the story behind the trends. Kyun niche gaya? Kyun upar gaya? How do you build that upar wala thing into a future trend that you can see, and will it build on? How will your numbers shape up? So all of that is really important. And that's why I think that in the DD process, one founder has to be involved along with a data team. Please have a data team. If you start doing it all on your own, it will become really difficult. And set up a data room, matlab just start putting files and folders in one place. And we started doing that. And then they said, okay, come for our final IC meeting to Seoul in December. So we went there, and imagine, so between me and my husband, investor relations is under me. And by the way, if I thought that women entrepreneurs are not getting funding, there's a bias, we wouldn't have done that. We had a choice between the two of us. Rohan could have always taken that space. But we didn't, because we said, well, it's the business. If the business is going to show someone that it can make money, why will they say no? And we are two of us, and I think if investors have a slight bias and they want us to prove, then I'm fine. I'm not working for you. I'm going to do my best. My business will grow, and we're going to make it so damn attractive that you will want to invest. At that point, you think whether it's a man or woman, it's your problem, not mine. So I never really thought about it. So in that Korea Investment Partners meeting, we had this huge table with about 30 partners from KIP, out of which maybe 99% were male. And I don't know how many of them spoke English again. I don't know if till today how many of them speak English. But I had my deck, and I spoke very slowly and tried to focus on the graphs, stop for them. In between, then we got a translator also. And we said, okay, in between you translate what I'm saying, But it's the energy, right? It's the vibe, it's your passion. It comes through. It doesn't matter if you and I speak the same language or not. I will bow, you will bow, and we will show respect, and we will talk about business, and you will understand through the translator as well. So this was December 2019. So the docs were all getting signed. February 2020 tak sign nahi hua tha, and COVID had started. So March, May, we are all like, please sign the docs. COVID started in South Korea before us, and they all went on lockdown. The docs not signed yet. And we're like, this can't happen. This can't happen. We worked so hard for this. So every other day I'll be writing to the guy, how's everything? How's everyone at home? I'm not saying, where's my document? But I'm asking everything to know, are you really you're not gonna back out, right? So then he'll be like, because this was big. This was $10 million, Series B. Right? And itna China jaake kahan se we had got. And us samay there were companies saying funding round dropped, valuation dropped, people are getting fired. And but thankfully the money came in on 1st of April when lockdown started in India. Right? So We were fine. And we, anyways, would not have laid off people because we had cash in the bank. But till today, we have not done a single layoff ever, whether COVID or without. So, yeah. Upskilling is important. Professional, you can't take your jobs for granted. People have to meet their goals. But no, not a layoff because of misallocation of capital, and we've run out of capital. And now we have a team of 425 people. So, there are more than 5,000 people every month who depend on us directly. And the 20 million users who are using us. There are 1,500, brands that we drive sales to. So there's a large ecosystem. There's a lot at stake. Must manage money carefully, therefore. Anyway, so COVID happened and e-commerce started growing actually. So we grew very well, 2020, 21. These were good years. We're growing 100% actually every year. And then 2022. So what made KIP invest in us, by the way? We should cover that. So 5 things. One was that their belief in the product, because they've seen the product play out, and global precedence of success. So when you're pitching to any investor, I feel that they're always looking for 5 things. And in a Series B stage, we had reached that point where we could demonstrate those 5. One was that global precedents of success are there. So India maybe hum banayenge wo, it can happen. Second was the market size itself. Market size of India was big and they were excited to play in it. The third was the traction of the business, the fact that we were growing. We had numbers to show. That was a clear thing for them that, okay, this is a business that's growing. The fourth was the team, that you have a team and it's executing. And the fifth was the unit metrics of the business. The fact that the unit metrics are positive, CACs are low, LTVs are high. This is a business that will ultimately become profitable. Can it become a money machine? That's what we were able to demonstrate to them. And I think these are the 5 things that any investor looks for in a pitch. So Series B stage tak, I think all 5 need to kick in. Now, if you note in the previous rounds, I didn't talk about all 5 because when you're talking about a seed and angel, unit metrics, profitability, not as relevant. Market size, at that stage, it's all about the product, the market, the team. If you can show some traction, great. Otherwise, sometimes that's not there and you can still get to a Series A. But Series B, ye tha. Now, 2 years later, we are like, okay, markets are good. We should raise money. That also happens. People are like, make your war chest, right? Bankers will tell you, make a war chest because you never know when another COVID happens. And that's true. We must have cash. And we were growing and we thought, okay, this is a good time to fundraise. So we said, let's do a Series C round. And we will grow the same thing more actually, CashKaro marketing and EarnKaro. We also wanted to launch a finance vertical, which we have today called BankKaro. Means that when you go and apply via CashKaro for any credit card on Axis Bank, SBI, HDFC, you get cash back. So now we're launching loans as well, launching insurance. So you're able to have this whole finance sector going on. So that was part of our reason for finance for Series C. So why I'm telling you this is because people will ask you, what will you do with this money? And it's really important to have that plan. That plan may not ever come to life. You may never use that Excel. But in those meetings, having that clarity of having thought through things, that's all that somebody is looking for. Nobody is going to say कि यही Excel था, ये क्यों नहीं बना? मतलब, if you ask me today, although it's being recorded, I will make if I'm fundraising, I will make a different 5-year projections plan for investors who are not currently invested in the business versus an AOP, which is an annual operating plan for the next year, which we will give to the board saying we will freaking deliver this. Because that's your board, those are your investors. You need to be very real with them and have that, very real picture. But with the future investors, it's always about a 5-year vision, right? And your 5-year vision, if you're not going to grow 5x and you think you'll grow only 2x, and the investor is thinking in her best case, she's only going to get to 2x. So if that's your best case and your best case will usually not work out, then how big is this business going to be? Not attractive enough to invest itself. So that's why a 5-year plan is always different from the AOP. And your future investor is always different from a guy on your board or a girl on your board, female on your board. So, I mean, that's how I operate. And I think most people operate like that. So, so we started our Series C round. Now at this point, I actually was told by my doctor that I need a kidney transplant because I've had this kidney problem for the last 20 years. And 2022, my kidney started failing. I was at 3-4% kidney function and my hemoglobin was 5.5. And we were doing this fundraise. And I said, मैं तो fundraise करके ही transplant कराऊंगी because I want to make sure that my business is fully capitalized. So at this point, this is like July, August, and I thought that my transplant will happen, but it'll happen after a couple of years. I didn't realize कि उसी समय हो जाएगा कि तभी करना है उसको. So we started doing blood tests. We got a test match done with my mom. Thankfully, she was a great match. And I remember in like July, August, September period of 2022, there was a time when I would be going to the hospital for my checkups and all with running, low energy because of all this. But I would come back and work on the SHA. I would be on investor calls. I would be pitching. I was at August 2022 and I didn't have an investor. And I knew that like November, December tak to transplant karana padega. And then suddenly, okay, I had written to somebody 2 months ago on my LinkedIn who was actually my senior, जिसके बारे में मैंने सुना था from Singapore days. He replied back on my LinkedIn saying, hey, finally I am in Gurgaon, shall we catch up? I was like, yeah, because this guy is Anuj and he runs Affle Global and who invested in us eventually. And we used to think कि ये हमारे लिए perfect investors हैं, but कभी इतना सोचा नहीं था, ऐसे ही message करके भी भूल गए थे हम. So then he replied back and we met him. And after one meeting, he was like, I love this. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And I want to, let's do this seriously. And I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm all for doing things fast, And in that meeting, I didn't say anything. I was just like, all for doing things fast. We, got further questions from him. We started doing DD. And then they said, okay, we want to give you a term sheet. So I wrote to him and I said, just to let you know, I'm going to get this kidney transplant. It's going to happen in 2 months. I will make sure the deal is done before that. And I can tell you that I will be back to work very soon because मेरे से खुद ही नहीं रहा जाएगा. But I don't know. I'm just telling you कि ये हो रहा है. So you think about it and then only issue your term sheet. And he replied back saying, there's nothing to think. I have full confidence that you will be back to work full time, big time. So please go ahead. There's nothing to think about. I said, great. Thank you so much. Gift from the universe, right? Because I was like, okay, chahiye, and it's not just that ye luck hai, ye ho gaya, she got lucky. Yes, of course I got lucky. All of us are lucky enough to be here itself to start with. But it happens when you are working hard, you are hustling, you are sending the right vibes to the universe, and you're also trying to really make it happen. And you're doing all the right things, because if your business is also not growing, सिर्फ luck भी क्या करेगा उसके अंदर? Luck तो फिर भी करेगा, luck कुछ भी कर सकता है, लेकिन ऐसे luck काम नहीं करता. The harder you work, the luckier you get. So these two go together, I think. So we did that and we closed the transaction, and I remember that we waited for Diwali to pass before we do the PR. And 4th November, we did the PR, we cut the cake in office. It was a Friday. And Monday, 7th November, I checked into the hospital. 10th, my transplant was done. 2 weeks back, I was back home. 4 days later, started work from home. So that's how our fundraise number 5 happened. And this was big. It was 130 crores, right? So trying to close 130 crores while planning my own revival of life and getting a second life, right? It's like a second life for both, because business ke liye second life nahi hai, but continued life, right? 130 crores is a lot of money. And, trying to do that all the time, I think my mind had become compartmentalized. Like I could do an investor call sitting in the hospital. I could do, look at my report sitting in a meeting and not show anything on my face, because I just had a lot of faith. I had faith that the universe has my back and it will work out. That's it. No questions asked. And that's the only way you can operate, because otherwise you'll drive yourself mad because you can't control anything, So why did Affle invest in us? I think Affle invested because they saw a strategic fit. So as you start doing the larger rounds, so this was our Series C, people are sometimes also looking and saying, okay, is this a space I want to know more about? Is this a space I want to be invested in? Can maybe we do something together in the long run? Of course, goes without saying that they're looking at market size, unit metrics, traction. I think path through profitability becomes even more important when you're at a Series C stage, because by then people are, expecting you to have some kind of a plan on where will the green line be. And I think those are the questions that we were asking. Concentration risk, by the way, is something that comes up a lot in Series B and C. Series A, you can still get away with it. Series B, C, people will say, okay, how big is Amazon for you? How big is Flipkart for you? Tomorrow if Amazon goes away, is your business dead? And then you need to be able to defend by saying no, because I have all these other partners who are there, I have all these other things which are in the pipeline who will kick in, and concentration risk will have to be managed. So these things come up, right? Then questions people will ask is, okay, what is your current cost of customer acquisition? How will it come down? How will you continue growing while keeping your CAC low? Now, why CashKaro actually works with all these e-commerce partners today is because the CACs, them acquiring users via Google, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, all of that is just going very high. People are acquiring users at 1,000, 1,500 bucks per user. How will you ever recover? You don't, which is why most e-commerce companies are not profitable. So at CashKaro, what we tell them is that we are doing performance marketing. You only pay us if we drive you a sale. You pay us commission. And it's a percentage of your total, right? So it's never going to be very high. And that's, we help keep CACs low of e-commerce sites, which is why our business model works. So at the end of it, two things that I learned that with investors you must do. Number one is transparency, right? So if you already have an investor, and once they come on your board, by the way, you don't have to offer a board seat to every investor. I think you need to. So somebody told me this recently, one of my friends who's built a big unicorn in India. He was like, don't give investors so much power. Stop making them feel like you really need them. You're nothing without them. It should be like, this is an opportunity for you to invest. I am going to make you money. I am going to double your business, not double, sorry, 20x your money, right? So I am going to give you these crazy returns. Please, you should be wanting to invest in my business. But most of us as founders, when we are in those shoes, we don't think like that. We just really want you to invest, right? Which is what we normally come from. But that change and that switch is also important, because then as a founder, you also need to think about what's good for the business. And you're able to take those calls when you're not in a constant pandering mode, which you don't need to be. But transparency is important. So every time we've had a challenge in the business, we have discussed it in our board meetings. We do a board meeting three times a year. And I start off with saying, these are the the wins that we've had since last we met, and these are the areas we need to do better on. And all the things that I know are not doing well, I put them on that slide. So that you never tell me I never told you. Yeah, it's a business, it will have its ups and downs, I can't control everything. But yes, I must have a plan for it, because I painted that picture for you. I have to make it come true. I understand that responsibility. But at the same time, if there are challenges coming, we will be honest with you. Right? So transparency, I think, is important. And then you also find that investors actually help you. If they have a way to help you, at least they know that you need help. So I think there's no harm in doing that. And the second thing I've learned is communication, right? The power of active communication. Confidence, communication builds confidence. And that's why I send a monthly MIS. A monthly MIS which is sent to all the investors from our series A round onwards. Angels know. Angels, we like, their representative is there on our board and he's seeing everything every month. And I send the MIS. It's not an automated message that goes from finance. Why that makes a difference is because every month when the founder is writing to you and telling you, ye mere numbers hain, yes, I met 78% of the target, or maybe I met 90 or 100, I will tell you why, right? And I write commentary over there on what did we see and why did we meet certain numbers, didn't meet other numbers. Now the thing is that we actually never really had this whole discipline of having an AOP until 2 years ago. Because 5 years ago, if you asked me to make an annual plan, I would be like, oh, but मुझे क्या पता साल में क्या होगा? Like, अभी से numbers लिखने का क्या फ़ायदा? That's not the right way to think about it. Because if you don't apply yourself, A, you're not setting hard targets for yourself. B, you're not forcing yourself to think कि क्या क्या अच्छा जा सकता है, क्या क्या बुरा जा सकता है, and if I really have to double my business, what am I going to do? Each of those activities, what incremental revenue will they result into? How many users do I need to acquire? And what revenue per user target should be there so that we're able to get to that revenue number? So even if doing an AOP seems like a completely pointless exercise, I'd say still please do it. Because that is going to force you to think of things. And like I said, maybe it's your best case, but then see what your best case is. What if after doing everything you realize that, oh, I'm only going to go from 15 crore revenue to 22. And then you'll be like, oh, but is that even exciting? It's not. At 22 crores, I can't even raise money. Okay, sorry. I need to actually grow from 15 to 45 crores. If I need to do 15 to 45, something drastically different needs to happen. So your brain starts thinking in a different way because you've given yourself a different goal. So now what we do is that we do an annual operating plan, which we share with the board every March, so that it's kicking in from April. And then we do a board meeting either in March or April to review and say that this is what we achieved last year. This is our target for the next year. Now, the board sometimes can say, Ki, we don't think it's an aggressive enough target. And at that point, we say, okay, well, we'll try to do more or send you back, revise numbers. But usually we try and convince them at that and say that, look, we will gun for more. But today on paper इससे ज़्यादा नहीं समझ आ रहा. Let's say for example. So that's okay. But at least that's a real conversation that you've had, because at the end of the year, if the other person tells you that, oh, I thought that you're actually going to go 3x, you only met 1.5x, and we're thinking that, dude, we've turned from loss making to profitable and grown 1.5 times, is that not good? So that alignment needs to be there. Otherwise, there'll be a mismatch of expectations. Investor relationships are quite like a lot of other relationships, right? You need to think about transparency, honesty, expectations, active communication. You're not married, but you are like dur se married, So you have some kind of connection with each other, which we need to build on and establish and continue doing that.